Gentlemen, and welcome to the Ready Set 2016 Your Licensing Decision webcast. My name is Dermot Lindsay. I'm the National Manager Alliance Partners and responsible for the development and rollout of the Perpetual Partnership Program. I'll tell you a little more about this program shortly, and then you will hear from Jamie Lumsden-Kelly from the Fold, who will be discussing your decision-making process. Let me start with saying, if there's anything that I would like you to take away from our two webcasts, is that the program is all about four things. You retaining your independence into the future, you choosing the professional partners you work with, you understanding the licensing options available to you, and you growing your practice. It is clear that there are significant changes causing disruption within the accounting industry, and these fall into two distinct categories. One, the legislative change, and that's the removal of the accountant's exemption, plus some other legislative changes like superstream and standard business reporting. The second one is market pressures, reducing revenue from tax and compliance fees impacted by standard business reporting and outsourcing or offshoring. Practice valuation business cap rates decreased by 14.5% in 2014, and that's the biggest decline in the past 4 years. And technology disruption, including the move to cloud-based solutions, with business owners being encouraged to go down this path by the introduction of superstream. The program has been developed over the last 2 years. We have spent hundreds of hours in formal research interviews and less formal discussions with hundreds of accounting practices around the country about what they will need to manage and grow their practices over the next few years. We spoke to the industry bodies and carried out desktop research on policymakers and ASIC and other stakeholders. On the back of that, we searched the market for best-of-breed providers in the accounting industry. And as part of that search, we went through comprehensive due diligence and reference checking processes. And we have done, and are continually doing, proof of concept trials with accountants across the country with each of our partners. Many accountants have been looking at the licensing decision and process as fairly linear. Decision, training, prepare, apply. But with only a few months to go, and ASIC advising it could take 4 months plus to process applications, it's now time to act and probably do everything simultaneously. So let's think about why an accountant would partner. There are a number of reasons behind the accountants that will partner, but there's two that probably stand out the most. One is retain independence and maintain high levels of professional standards, and the second one is to maintain control of the advice your practice provides your clients. What I want to be really clear about though, partnering is not around an authorized rep arrangement. Perpetual are not going down that path. We want accountants to retain their independence. It's not an exclusive arrangement either. We understand you may have existing relationships and you can continue to refer clients to any partner you wish. This is more about appropriate referrals to appropriate professional partners, and Perpetual being a preferred business partner. And there are no must-haves. You select the options on the program that are most appropriate for you. Why are Perpetual partnering with accountants? We've worked alongside accountants for over 120 years. We understand and acknowledge that accountants are clients' most trusted advisor. Accountants are telling us that they will not have the scale to deliver the full range of services that a lot of their clients will need, and most will need to refer to professional partners external to their practice to meet their clients' needs. We would like accountants to consider and partner with Perpetual to fulfill some of those clients' needs. Why partner with Perpetual? We are a professional trustee. Perpetual are leading providers of financial services to Australian families, professionals and business owners. We want to help accountants grow and to continue to be successful. We want accountants to retain their independence and high levels of professional standards. And we have specialist partnership executives dedicated to supporting accountants around the country. When you think about us as a professional trustee, let's just firstly consider the provision of trustee services. First and foremost, trustee services has connotations of safe and secure. Our trustee capability means the advice we provide ourselves is under the same requirements as the advice we provide those clients who choose to come to us. fiduciary heritage since 1886, and this heritage results in us holding the highest level of licensing by law as a professional trustee. Our investment research process is built on strong quality and value filters, and it applies to direct equities as well as internal and external funds. And an interesting statistic is that 83% of Perpetual Private's funds under management is managed by external managers. Again, we value independence, our partners value independence, and our clients value independence. And if you think about it from an advice point of view, we have better qualified advisors than the broader industry. How so? How do you measure that? Average of 13 years financial services experience across our advisor network. An average of 9 years providing client advice. We have 22% more certified financial planners than the industry average. We have more master degrees than the industry average. 78% of our advisor network have a university degree, and 15% have a master's degree. Some of our senior advisors are also qualified accountants and or lawyers. Let me quickly spend a moment on the Perpetual Partnership Program. Let's talk about the benefits of the program. Saving time and money. We know that you're busy, and we know that you're constantly on the clock. So we've done a lot of the groundwork for you, and the time by not getting distracted by the noise in the industry around some of these legislative and market changes. Partners that have been through a due diligence and reference checking process. And when you think about the practices currently in our network, they're generally sole traders through the 7 to 10 partners. These practices tell us they get a great value from regular forums that we facilitate, where they get the opportunity to talk about the day-to-day challenges with others in a similar situation. And you would also get access to better than market rates from our partners. So the last 12 months has brought us plenty of insights, whether it's the licensing challenge, whether it's the downward pressure on tax and compliance revenue, or whether it is the enterprise value of your practice and growing advisory revenue that keep you awake. We believe that the Perpetual Partnership Program addresses each of these challenges in turn by using our brand and scale to find the right external and independent business partners for you. We recently asked you about your preparations for the removal of the accountant's exemption in July 16 via an online survey. 56% of you do not feel prepared for the changes, and a further 30% are only reasonably well prepared. 84% of you felt it was of critical importance to maintain your independence during this process, and 63% of you disagreed with the statement that obtaining a license will be an easy process. So here, if you look at the slide in front of you, we have spoken to a number of accountants that actually commenced their own application process. Some of them said it took them 20 to 30 days. Some of them gave up halfway through. Now, we believe that if you bill out that time, it's going to be quite expensive for you, where if you think about using a partner, which is the fundamental belief of our program, that's when you can save plenty of time, plenty of heartache, and you've got the external independence of our licensing partner, the fold. So I'm going to hand you over to Jamie Lumsden-Kelly. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk to you about the licensing decision and how to work out what is right for your business. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. Ultimately, it comes down to working out what is going to be the best fit for your particular practice. But just before we do delve into the details, I would like to do a little bit of myth-busting. So one of those is that if you remain unlicensed, ASIC won't find you. Historically, ASIC has gone through a series of monitoring and supervision programs post-licensing waves. So they did this following margin lending. They did it following credit licensing. For example, in 2012, they took action against a credit provider who had made an application and then later withdrawn it. They also went through a process of tracking down anybody who hadn't made applications and remained unlicensed. In particular, they're already focusing on the SMSF advice sector. They've taken action against a number of people, including property promoters and financiers who've been involved in unlicensed SMSF advice since 2014 and throughout 2015. Another myth is that if you become an authorised representative, all the liability and responsibility rests with your licensee, which is not actually true. If you're the person giving the advice, then the responsibility and liability rests with you. For example, in 2012, ASIC entered into an enforceable undertaking with a former authorised representative of a large dealer group for essentially failing to provide SOAs, failing to consider the client's circumstances, and a number of other factors relating to poor advice. That person was banned for 2 years and subjected to strict conditions in order to return to advising. Additionally, sometimes ASIC's attention can actually come to you because of the licensee. So in 2015, ASIC banned an authorised representative for 3 years following ASIC's concern that the licensee was not complying with its obligations. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that becoming an authorised representative is necessarily going to be the easiest or simplest option. It may be right for you or it may not be. So in deciding what you're going to do with the licensing, there's a number of questions that you need to ask yourself. The first one is, do you actually want to advise clients on SMSFs? You might not. If that's only a small part of your business, or you're considering retirement, succession planning, other factors that mean you no longer want to continue in that space, then the best solution for you might be to find a referral arrangement, in which case you need to investigate potential referral partners. The pros of that approach are that you get to focus on your core business. Of course, the downside to it is that you can't provide SMSF advice or set up SMSFs yourself. You have to actually refer out that activity. Also, don't fall into the trap of thinking that doing nothing actually means doing nothing. You will need to have policies and procedures to help you to understand at what point you should pass over to your referral partner, and you should have a documented referral agreement with your referral partners. So what if you do want to provide SMSF advice? Well, there's a number of questions that you should ask yourself in determining whether you're going to become an authorised rep or pursue the self-licence path. For example, how do you feel about bringing another partner into your practice? How do you feel about having your advice reviewed by an authorising licensee, or having your client complaints passed back to a licensee? These are all things that might happen if you become an authorised representative. You may also lose control over how you service your clients. Your authorising licensee might want to provide you with policies and procedures on how you will manage your clients, or the service standards that will apply to the financial services that you provide as an authorised representative. One pro of being an authorised rep is considered that you don't have to deal with the compliance, but of course that then means that somebody else is telling you how you'll handle those compliance aspects, and you'll need to follow their policies and procedures. It may be expected that you will exclusively refer clients to your authorising licensee for financial services, and you may also be required to co-brand your FSG with your licensee. These are not always hard and fast rules, but they are certainly questions that you should be asking of any licensee that you're considering entering into a relationship with. If you're okay with those things and you find somebody that suits you as an authorising licensee, then there are certain pros and cons to an authorised representative relationship. For example, it is a bit simpler than going and getting your own licence. It does have a perceived low cost, although that may not necessarily be true. I have seen some licensees charging fees for authorised representative relationships that are just as much as getting a licence, and ongoing may actually be higher. And then again, some other people are offering some fairly low cost arrangements, so you should definitely investigate what's available in the market. You can do everything that a limited licensee can do, depending upon your licensee's risk appetite. Usually they'll authorise you with fairly similar authorisations to a limited licence. You'll get support from your licensee in terms of policies and procedures and templated documents for SOAs and FSGs and things like that. This, of course, means that you can focus on giving advice to your clients and not having to worry so much about the compliance framework, as all of that is managed by your licensee. Of course, on the flip side of that, you do lose some independence because you have to do things the way that your licensee wants you to do. You may not be able to tailor the documents that you're given to suit your clients, so you may have to use fairly lengthy SOAs or FSGs that perhaps refer more broadly to the services offered by your licensee. Your philosophy and approach to client service may not be consistent with your licensees, and of course ultimately you have to provide the financial services in the way that you're instructed. A lot of licensees take the view, not necessarily wrongly, that it is their license and their liability, and therefore if you want to be the authorised representative, you have to do it the way that they want it done. It's also worth noting that as an authorised representative of a financial planner, you cannot call yourself independent. So there are restrictions under the Corporations Act around the use of the word independent, and basically you won't be able to use it if you receive commissions or if your authorising licensee receives commissions, unless ultimately those commissions are fully rebated. Of course, most financial services licensees still receive commissions, either in relation to life insurance or because they've been grandfathered under the FOFA reforms. You also need to operate free of any conflicts of interest, even if you do rebate all those commissions. So it's only in those circumstances that you can use the word independent, and otherwise you won't be able to use it. And so that's something that you need to consider in making that decision. So if you decide that the authorised representative model is not for you and you want to explore a self-licensed arrangement, then there are various pros and cons that go with that as well. So for example, of course, you definitely get to maintain your independence. You're running your own ship, you get to decide how you're doing it. Of course, the flip side of that is that you are the one that has that responsibility, and you need to go and set up your own compliance framework and work out how you can implement all those various policies and procedures. You do, however, get to maintain full control over your practice, your clients, and the advice that you provide, and you'll have more practice growth opportunities from being able to offer different advisory services under that license. Of course, you do have to go through a complex application process to get your license, so it's definitely worth considering outsourcing it, particularly at this late date, as you've only got a few months to go until ASIC's soft deadline, and you may have additional time commitments and specialist resources in order to implement those policies and procedures, manage your ongoing compliance, and extend your PI insurance to cover an AFS license. So, preparing your application. There's a number of things that you need to consider, but if you're considering a self-license model, you definitely need to think about your RG146 training. This is absolutely imperative that you get this going straight away. Some RG146 courses can take up to 9 months to do, and of course at this point we've only got a few months to go. 9 months is far too long. If you want to do everything, you need to start thinking about much shorter opportunities to complete that training and think about how you can get that done in as short a time as possible. ASIC is basically saying that you can lodge your license application up to 3 months before your training is complete, and that's based on how long they expect that it will take them to assess that application. But if it's not done before the 30th of June, you're not going to be able to get your license in time. There's a few things that you should be considering when you're looking at your training, including what authorizations you want. Some people are thinking that they don't want class of product authorizations that allow them to discuss things like securities and insurance, but you might actually want to rethink that. For example, if you want to advise people on purchasing securities in order to have tax deductions in retirement and pension phase, that's financial advice on securities, and so you'll need that class of product authorization. Or if you want to tell people that they should have life insurance, that's life insurance class of product advice, and you need to have done the training for that as well. So definitely make sure when you talk to your training provider that you're doing the right training for the authorizations that you want, as this is one of the reasons that ASIC has rejected a lot of applications. There's a number of different providers out there offering RG146 training, Kaplan, CAN, CPA, NCAA. There's a few others. Make sure that you talk to them and find the course that's best going to work for you. Also be aware that if you're going to offer LRBAs, that there may be some additional training requirements for certain providers if you're going to be doing that. So to wrap up, what exactly should you be thinking about straight away? First thing is RG146. If you're not doing it, start doing it right now. You need it regardless of what your licensing decision is, whether you're going to be an authorised rep or a self-licensed. Absolutely, you need your RG146. ASIC is giving us a soft deadline of 1 March to lodge license applications, so the remaining time is now a whole lot shorter. We've got 4 months less than we thought we had to 1 July 2016. If you haven't already started your license application or you're thinking about a self-licensed model, you absolutely need to get that application going now in order to get it in time for that soft deadline. If instead you're still thinking about becoming an authorised representative, you should be speaking to some licensees immediately about your options and what their requirements are. If you change your mind and you want to become self-licensed and it's too late in the piece, you may not get there in time. If you don't have your application in by 1 March, again, ASIC is not making any guarantees about whether you'll have your license in time. You should also be speaking to your PI broker about any changes that you might need to your insurance if you're going to become a licensee. The insurance that you currently have probably doesn't extend to financial services, and so you're going to have to extend it. Make sure you get those quotes now. There can be a bit of a lead time on changing PI insurance, and I have had some accountants talk about how they're having difficulty getting the insurance extended in the way that they need it to be. So that may not be an immediately quick process to do that. If you are definitely already going to get a license, then you need to start thinking about your compliance policies and procedures. ASIC can ask you about this in the licensing process, so you want to have those available for the point where you get to requisitions. You also want to start thinking about the documents that you'll need for once your license is granted. So that's your FSG and your SOA. We can provide templates for that as well if you need it. Otherwise, you might want to build your own. Back over to Dermot to summarise for us.
Thanks, Jamie. So while you absorb the details of the licensing options and start to think about your path, let's turn for a few moments to practice growth. Where can you offer more value to clients? When you think about building or growing an advisory practice, where do you start? Our research led us to significant value-add opportunities for accountants who want to increase their enterprise value. 3 areas we looked closely at were strategy to increase revenue via new client opportunities, opportunities in leveraging advice services, and positioning business advisory and ongoing consulting role. We have external partners to assist in that, so if you would like more information, please let us know. Just going back to what I said at the start of this webcast, if there's anything that I would like you to take away from this webcast is that this program is all about 4 things. You retain your independence, you choosing the professional partners you work with, you understanding the licensing options available to you, and you growing your practice. And as I said, our partnership program A is going to deal with the self-licensing piece and offer support for those accountants who want to get their own license. And then we have the second phase of our program, which talks about building advisory practice. And for future offers, as the world changes and as we identify more efficiencies to bring to accountants, we will do that. So very quickly, just in summary, looking at partnership, what's it about? It's about retaining your independence. It's saving you time and money. It's working with like-minded businesses, being part of a large network of similar people, technical training and support, continuing market research to bring new partners to it, and the potential to pay $0 for your license. And then from a licensing point of view, very quickly, you need to make a decision which way you're going. You need to also have started, or at least start, your OG 146. There are some efficient ways for accountants to get that. Authorized representative versus self-licensing. Decision 3, outsource your application preparation and lodgement to the fold for less than $9,000. And if you see Perpetual as an appropriate professional partner, that could cost you $0. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you. There are, on that slide there's a couple of quick links into frequently asked questions by accountants and some clear responses. If you have direct questions that aren't there, please contact us. If you want to know more about our Perpetual Partnership Program, by all means, get in touch. We look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.